Emina had disappeared from Aquea, and no one ever saw him again. He wandered for days, walking through forests and crossing rivers, driven by nothing but the weight of his sorrow and regret. Eventually, he found himself in another village, Maira, a place much like Aquea, but bigger and busier. People in Maira bustled about, trading goods and living their lives. It was a village that offered a fresh start, but for Emina it was also a place full of opportunities for his old habits. He had no money, no home, and no one to turn to. The guilt of his past weighed heavily on him, but hunger and desperation soon forced him to return to the only thing he knew, stealing. But this time, Emina found himself in a strange and uncomfortable situation. In Maira, people were more cautious about their belongings, and the crowds were different. Emina realized that picking pockets would be much harder here. He needed a new approach. One evening, as he wandered through the crowded streets, Emina noticed something peculiar. People left their clothes hanging outside to dry, especially their pants. His sharp eyes scanned the rows of neatly hung clothing in alleyways and behind homes. The idea came to him suddenly, almost like an instinct. Instead of picking pockets, he would start stealing pants. It seemed strange at first, even to Emina, but he figured that stealing pants would go unnoticed. No one would suspect a boy sneaking through the alleys at night, taking what people left behind. And so Emina became a different kind of thief. Late at night, when the village was asleep, he would slip into dark alleys and take pairs of pants, carefully folding them and tucking them under his arm before disappearing into the shadows. At first, it worked perfectly. Emina would sell the stolen pants to traveling merchants who passed through the village. He managed to scrape together enough money to buy food and rent a small room in an old building on the outskirts of Maira. His life felt empty, but at least he wasn't starving. Yet with each theft, the emptiness inside him only grew. Every night he would return to his room, staring at the stolen pants piled in the corner, and feel the familiar guilt gnawing at him. Weeks passed, and Emina's strange habit of stealing pants continued. It became almost like an obsession. He wasn't sure why he kept doing it, but something inside him felt drawn to this strange new way of surviving. He had stopped caring about the faces of the people he was stealing from. All that mattered was that he could keep going, even if the act felt hollow and meaningless. But soon, things started to unravel. One night, while sneaking through an alley, Emina spotted a pair of pants that looked particularly valuable, made from fine, thick fabric that clearly belonged to someone wealthy. He couldn't resist. His hands moved quickly, snatching the pants from the line. But just as he turned to leave, he heard a shout behind him. "Thief!" a voice cried out. Emina froze. His heart pounded as he looked around, but it was too late. A group of men had seen him, and they were already rushing toward him. Panic gripped Emina as he bolted down the alley, the stolen pants clutched tightly in his hands. He ran as fast as he could, weaving through the narrow streets and slipping into the shadows. But the men were faster. They chased him through the village, shouting for others to join them. Emina's chest burned as he ran, his legs aching with every step. He knew he couldn't outrun them forever. In a desperate move, he darted into a small alley and climbed a wall, hoping to lose his pursuers. But as he leapt over the wall, he landed awkwardly, twisting his ankle. Pain shot through his leg and he fell to the ground, the stolen pants still in his hands. He tried to crawl away, but it was no use. The men caught up to him quickly, grabbing him by the arms and dragging him back to the main street. A crowd had gathered, and Emina could feel their eyes on him, filled with anger and disgust. The leader of the group, a tall man with a stern face, glared down at Emina. "What kind of thief steals pants?" he spat. The crowd murmured in agreement, some laughing at the absurdity of it all. Emina had no words. He looked down at the ground, his heart heavy with shame. The stolen pants lay crumpled beside him, a sad reminder of how far he had fallen. He had left Aquea to escape his past, but here he was, trapped in the same cycle of theft and regret. The village leaders decided to take Emina to the elders of Maira. They would decide his fate. As he was dragged through the streets, Emina felt a deep sense of dread. He had hoped for a new life in this village, but all he had found was more pain and sorrow. When they reached the elders, Emina was forced to explain his actions. He told them about his mother, his life in Aquea, and how he had started stealing out of desperation. But as he spoke, he realized that his words felt hollow. He had made the same excuses for too long. The elders listened in silence before passing their judgment. Emina would be banished from Maira, sent away with nothing but the clothes on his back. He had no future in the village, no place among its people. Once again, Emina found himself alone, walking into the unknown. As he left Maira, limping from his injured ankle, Emina wondered if he would ever find a place where he truly belonged. He had stolen so much, but nothing had ever filled the emptiness inside him. And as the village disappeared behind him, he knew that he could never escape the consequences of his choices. The road ahead was long and uncertain, but one thing was clear. Emina's life would never be the same again.